The dynamics with my once amiable ex-husband and the in-laws, from whom I used to keep a comfortable distance, underwent a significant transformation. Rather than simply saying they changed, it would be more precise to note that their true nature emerged. The catalyst for this shift was the revelation of my inheritance from my late aunt. While I had grasped intellectually that wealth could alter people, experiencing it firsthand proved to be mentally draining. The unfolding events, coupled with various other factors, ultimately led to our divorce. Presently, I find myself completely estranged from my former in-laws, and by all accounts, their household remains in disarray. A few years ago, my mother's sister, my aunt, passed away. Her life was marked by hard work from a young age and wise investments. Initially, I hadn't paid much attention to the extent of her wealth, dismissing it when first mentioned. However, my mother had hinted at my aunt's substantial assets, emphasizing her frugal and prudent approach to finances. My aunt's lifestyle was a testament to her financial prudence. She cooked her own meals, sourced ingredients from regular supermarkets, and opted for a few high-quality outfits instead of numerous ones, wearing them for years. I admired and cherished her values. In her time, societal norms dictated that men worked outside while women managed the home. A woman like my aunt, who earned more than many men, faced disdain and was often deemed too forward. She remained unmarried and childless, living life on her own terms. Despite societal scrutiny, she embraced an attitude of indifference, confidently defying expectations. During one of my visits, as we relaxed on the sofa with tea, my aunt unexpectedly revealed her wish for me to inherit her estate. Taken aback by her sudden statement, I inquired about her intent. She explained that, being unmarried and without children, I was the logical choice to inherit her assets, defying those who had consistently belittled and looked down on her throughout her life. "I don't want them touching my money," she asserted firmly, her smile belying the seriousness of her tone. As we discussed the impending inheritance, she made it clear that she intended to specify in the documentation that I was to be the sole heir. Accepting her decision with a nod, I acknowledged that if that's what she wished, then so be it. At the time of our conversation, my aunt was only in her 40s, and the thought of inheriting her estate seemed distant, perhaps decades away. Being still in high school, the intricacies of inheritance and estates were beyond my comprehension. I remember thinking she might have been joking, brushing it off as a far-off possibility. Years passed, marked by marriage, childbirth, and the bustle of raising a family and pursuing a career. Amidst the whirlwind of life, snippets of news reached me through my mother. My aunt's health was faltering. The urgency struck when my younger child was about to make his debut into society. Hastening to the hospital, I found my aunt seemingly vibrant, dismissing the notion of illness with her characteristic energy and smile. Relieved by her demeanor, I reassured myself that all was well. However, the truth soon unfolded. Despite her brave facade, her health was deteriorating rapidly, evident in her frequent hospitalizations. Each visit revealed her waning strength, her once lively features hollowing with illness. Yet she persisted with her cheerful disposition, masking the severity of her condition for the sake of those around her. Despite her declining health, she maintained her spirit, welcoming us with warmth and affection during each visit, even as her frailty became more pronounced with time. Whenever I saw her, she greeted me with that familiar smile, a smile that spoke of resilience and inner strength, a smile I had known since childhood. Despite her illness, she maintained her composure, and I admired her for it. I held on to hope for her recovery, but ultimately she passed away. Her funeral was a somber affair, attended only by close family members. In the quiet reflection that followed, regret consumed me. I wished I had visited her more often, made more time for shared memories. Yet, I understood that regret, once realized, arrives too late. My children, who had adored her, shared in this sorrow. Their lament over missed conversations mirrored my own. In the midst of grieving, a brown envelope arrived at my doorstep one day. Stamped with the seal of a lawyer's office, it puzzled me. I had no recollection of needing legal counsel, nor did I suspect any involvement in a legal matter. With hesitant hands, I opened the envelope, revealing its contents, a list of matters pertaining to my aunt's inheritance. Suddenly, her long-ago declaration resurfaced in my memory, and I realized the gravity of her words. To clarify the details, I contacted the lawyer, an old friend of my aunt's. As we delved into discussions about her estate, I was astonished by the magnitude of her wealth. What I had assumed to be a modest sum turned out to be an inheritance exceeding 200 million. The revelation of the staggering amount left me even more bewildered, prompting me to reach out to my mother after conversing with the lawyer. In a tone tinged with panic, she reminded me of a conversation from years ago, where I had apparently agreed to be my sister's heir after high school. Surprised by her optimistic response, I remained restless, grappling with the enormity of the inheritance. Sensing my hesitation, my mother, in her usual casual manner, suggested that since my sister had taken the trouble to leave the documents for me, I should accept them gratefully. I questioned why my mother didn't claim the inheritance herself. She explained the complexities of inheritance, recounting a family dispute from long ago where lack of a will led to bitter conflicts among siblings and their offspring. She emphasized that my sister had left explicit instructions for me to inherit, implying it wouldn't be fair for her to claim it instead. Dismissively, I shrugged off her advice, confident that my husband and in-laws wouldn't pose any concerns. Little did I realize that her cautionary words would soon prove prescient. Days later, my ex-husband, displaying a hint of unease, inquired about the document received from the lawyer's office, suggesting it might pertain to the estate, a foreboding hint of the turmoil to come. I wondered how he got wind of it, but with no reason to conceal the inheritance, I openly admitted it when he inquired. His eyes lit up with curiosity, and he pressed me for details about the amount. Alarmed by my husband's smug expression, I tried to downplay it, stating it was approximately $7 million. However, he sensed the discrepancy and persisted, suggesting a more thorough verification. Initially, I dismissed his probing nonchalantly, but as his persistence wore on, irritation crept in. Frustrated, I firmly asserted that the matter was settled and insisted on putting an end to the discussion. Strangely, from the next day onward, his demeanor changed, and he began to ignore me. The unfamiliarity of being ignored caught me off guard, and a silent tension enveloped our interactions for 2 months. During this silent period, my former in-laws, who usually notified us before visiting, arrived unannounced. Their sudden appearance triggered concerns, and my ex-father-in-law, with an air of pride, revealed they had heard about my recent inheritance, estimating it to be over $100 million. Expressing pride in their son's choice of a good wife, they proposed renovating their aging house and suggested we all live together, even considering adding a room for me. The shock extended beyond the fact that my ex-husband knew the actual amount of my inheritance. I was taken aback by the audacity of my in-laws to consider utilizing the money for their own home improvement. Despite my incredulity, they excitedly discussed plans like installing an island kitchen and making the house barrier-free. Unable to endure it any longer, I felt a surge of conflicting emotions. I interrupted, urging them not to make decisions independently. They asserted that they had already sought a cost estimate, their actions betraying their reliance on my inheritance, seemingly oblivious to any impropriety. Overwhelmed by the situation, though I harbored a multitude of sentiments, I restrained myself from emoting, simply requesting they leave for the day. That evening, upon my husband's return from work, I confronted him. Initially evasive, he eventually confessed to scrutinizing my bank book, which I kept securely tucked away in my dresser. His intrusive behavior disappointed me deeply. I recounted the day's events with his parents. To my surprise, he argued that as a couple, our earnings merged into joint property, including my inheritance. It was, in his view, only natural to allocate it toward renovating his parents' home. He criticized me for concealing the true extent of the inheritance. Even after this confrontation, he persisted in defending his parents' actions, casting blame on me. His audacity reached new heights when, amidst our discussion, he casually mentioned quitting his job. Bewildered, I questioned his decision. His rationale shocked me. Since I possessed ample financial resources, he saw no reason to endure the stresses of employment. Living off my wealth, he argued, would afford us a stress-free, comfortable life. Renovating his parents' house, he claimed, would enhance my status as their daughter-in-law. His obliviousness to my concerns left me exasperated. It became evident that he saw only the perceived benefits of his actions, dismissing my objections with a hopeless resolve. I asserted that I had no qualms about the renovation, but made it clear that I had no intention of financing it. In response, my ex-husband erupted in fury, insisting that the plans were already in motion. Unfazed, I chose to ignore his tirade. The following day, he returned with his parents, expressing dissatisfaction with the altered situation. I reminded him that decisions were made without my consultation, and even if I had initially agreed, there was no reason for me to fund it. They criticized me for not contributing to the renovation, despite their supposed kindness and my financial comfort. Disillusioned by their true nature, I declared that I had nothing more to discuss and asked them to leave. When my ex-husband panicked at the prospect of divorce, I calmly informed him that we would discuss it with a lawyer and escorted them out. Seeking refuge in a business hotel, I turned off my phone in response to his continued messages professing love. The next day, I confided in my parents, who, though disappointed, weren't surprised. Considering divorce as my primary option, my mother advised me to stand my ground, suspecting he wasn't ready to let go. They suggested investigating if he had committed other wrongs. Hiring a detective agency revealed his frequenting of nightlife establishments, which I found intolerable for personal reasons, strengthening my resolve to divorce. Consulting a divorce-savvy lawyer, I initiated the divorce process. However, my ex-husband not only refused but demanded compensation and the division of assets. When the lawyer clarified that inherited assets were not marital property, exempt from division, my ex-husband insisted otherwise. The lawyer posed a hypothetical scenario, asking if he would surrender inherited assets from his parents to his wife, and he remained silent, realizing the inconsistency in his argument. Confronted with the unreasonableness of his demands, my ex-husband was finally lectured on the impracticality of his stance. Ultimately, tears in his eyes marked the realization that his demands lacked merit. He began insisting that I foot the bill for the renovation costs, a demand I promptly dismissed. Seeing his dejected expression, I later learned that the renovations had already been completed. He had orchestrated the renovations under his name, assuming I would cover the expenses. Astonishingly, the meticulous work amounted to over 7 million yen in total. It became apparent that his reluctance to divorce stemmed from his inability to afford the payments. However, I remained firm in my stance, refusing to shoulder the burden of his parents' home renovation, regardless of our marital status. In a shameless attempt to negotiate, he proposed splitting the costs, but backed down when threatened with legal action for extortion by my lawyer. Despite this setback, his parents took matters into their own hands, confronting my family and causing a scene. Their aggressive behavior resulted in their arrest after they vandalized our property. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip following the incident, shedding light on the audacity of my ex-husband's family. Despite securing a divorce, his persistent messages professing love prompted me to obtain a restraining order against him. Aware of its temporary nature and fearing future retaliation, I made the difficult decision to relocate with my parents. Though guilt weighed heavy for uprooting them from familiar surroundings, it seemed the safest choice given the circumstances. Life settled into a new rhythm, but my fears materialized when my ex-husband violated the restraining order, lingering around our former home. His suspicious behavior led to his arrest, revealing a small knife in his possession. Upon learning of his desire to speak with me, a chill ran down my spine, signaling the persistence of unresolved issues despite the divorce and legal interventions. The thought of what could have transpired if I hadn't moved away, relying on the presumed protection of the restraining order, sends shivers down my spine. Although my ex-husband was released earlier than expected, with no injuries sustained, the fear has taken root, preventing me from revisiting the location of my former family home. For a period, I lost track of my ex, but a friend residing near his family home provided occasional updates. The post-renovation scenario revealed frequent heated arguments about finances, ranging from disputes over loans to ownership claims. The acrimony was palpable, occasionally escalating to the point where the police had to intervene. Blame for the divorce, accusations, and the breaking of things echoed through the walls. It saddened me to witness the deterioration of relationships that were once strong, particularly the bond between my ex-husband and his father. Reflecting on my mother's warning that money can change people, I realized the truth behind her words. Interestingly, my ex-mother-in-law's shouts to find a job and my ex-husband's retort suggested ongoing financial struggles, emphasizing the impact of money on their lives. My neighbors, aware of our tumultuous divorce, now avoid interactions with the ex's family, fearing requests for money. There's even a rumor that approaching their house could bring misfortune. It's amusing to hear such tales, considering the chaos I left behind. Currently, I reside in a more spacious rental apartment with my parents, who consistently urge me to prioritize myself. Remarrying is not on my agenda, as I fear a potential partner might be swayed by the inheritance, mirroring my ex's transformation. My simple lifestyle, devoid of extravagant hobbies, aligns with my intent to continue living as I always have. I view the inheritance as a cherished gift from my admired aunt, and I aspire to manage it carefully, following her prudent example. Recently, while working part-time, I've delved into learning about investments and financial planning, gaining a newfound respect for my aunt's long-standing financial acumen. Though content in our lives, I occasionally hear about the struggles my ex and his family face. However, since we are divorced, they are now strangers, and I hope they navigate their challenges without involving others.